I'm John Heilemann, and this is the Hell and High Water Podcast. My guest is former Assistant Director of the FBI, Frank Figliuzzi.
We're going back to the Capitol, right where it started, on September 18th. And we're going to push back against the phony narrative that there was an insurrection. We're going to provide the kind of evidence that Nancy Pelosi won't allow to be presented at her select committee, showing that this was a largely peaceful crowd, showing that this was a crowd that was egged on in many ways by Capitol Police throwing flashbang grenades into a relatively peaceful crowd. We're going to continue to raise the volume and push back against this phony narrative and demand justice for these political prisoners.
So that's Matthew Brainerd, a former supposed Trump campaign official who I've never heard of until this moment. A guy who was not, he was on Steve Bannon's now increasingly and insidiously popular War Room Pandemic or War Room, whatever the fuck it is called now, podcast. He's been going on there quite frequently of late, drumming up interest in this event that's taking place on September 18th. And we're here with Frank Figliuzzi.
Thanks for having me. Wish we were talking about a happier topic, but here we are.
We never talk about happy topics, Frank. That's our whole relationship is based on unhappy topics, essentially. So what do you make of this thing? That was Brainerd a couple months ago when he announced that this thing was happening, this rally. He's been on Bannon and other places since then, trying to basically say, hey, it's going to be a peaceful protest. Don't worry. But there's obviously been a lot of concern among a lot of people in Washington, among law enforcement people, among intelligence people, that this could be a very bad scene. What's your current take on how much we have to fear?
So I want to talk about it at a very kind of micro level on what the 18th of September might look like around the country. But I really want to talk about this September 18th rally as a symptom of a much larger problem in the body democracy, right? So, rallies come and go. The rally could end up being well secured and fizzle out or be peaceful. But the fact that they're holding the rally, the fact that the clip you just played reflects a sentiment that people are aggrieved, that Ashley Babbitt is a martyr, that the people being arrested and held for January 6th violence are somehow political hostages and prisoners. That's the topic of discussion. That's what puts us in peril. Let's talk first about the micro thing, about the security of the day. So if you had asked me this question a couple of weeks ago about, hey, is there going to be violence on September 18th? I would have said this. I'm concerned about localized violence around the country. I think DC is going to be heavily secured. I know it is. The police, the intel community, they're all coming together on this one. Maybe the fence will go up. Maybe it'll be around the perimeter. Maybe it'll be around the building of the Capitol. But I think it's going to be, with some scattered possibilities of fights and things breaking out on the periphery. I think it's going to be secure. That's what I would have said 2 weeks ago. Now, here's what's changed with regard to monitoring the chatter on violent extremist sites, and in particular, the Proud Boys. What's changed is they are now incensed about Biden's vaccine mandates. They think the sky is falling now, and they are indeed talking about violence. Now, it doesn't change the fact that DC is going to be really secure, but what I see them talking about is they use this phrase, going local. So yes, I think now incensed, they're going to show up in DC, but also, state and local authorities better be ready. And DHS has told them this, because I think they are also going to go local.
But this vaccine mandate thing really seems to have changed the calculus and changed the emotional pitch and the dynamics in a way that again, you monitor this traffic. I don't, but it just from my distance, I'm like, I'm starting to get a little nervous myself. It's got
them totally riled up, even talking about recently, just in the last few days, Proud Boys in their private chat rooms talking about how to build homemade incendiary devices. They believe this is kind of an authoritarian Nazi regime. They point out that Biden did reportedly tweak his federal employee mandate and federal contractor mandate where he could control the environment, which is to go from vaccine or tests weekly for federal employees to vaccines, period. And they're focused on that. But here's the other component of this. Now the resistance to that has been mainstreamed. So it wasn't, I wish it were just these fringe and violent extremist groups, but they are being led and incited by now elected officials going on television saying, resist, don't do it, we're suing. And that is radicalization. And I get in trouble every time I say it, and I no longer care because it's true. Yeah. My days in the FBI working international terrorism are now eerily similar to what I'm seeing in form of online radicalization of our own people.
Right. What does that mean? Say more about that. What are the parallels that you can draw between those two experiences as we sit here literally just a couple days after the 9/11 anniversary, the 20th anniversary of 9/11?
Yeah, you have to have some form of leadership in radicalization. And we saw it getting faster and faster with Al-Qaeda and then ISIS, where young people, particularly a 19-year-old guy sitting at home in Minneapolis or Columbus, Ohio, watching beheading videos, listening to a radical cleric talk about, killing the infidels. We were down to, say, 9 weeks of watching videos from no radicalization to I'm ready, sign me up, I'm ready to travel to go kill some infidels. 9 weeks. The power of social media and online radicalization. That's a parallel I see now happening with the mentorship and in inciting by people like Marjorie Taylor Greene and you name them, Ted Cruz, Rand Paul, everybody saying, let's resist, let's not do the mandate, this is the end of the world. That's their leadership. And that's where they seek affirmation and get incited to violence.
There are planned events now for the Justice for J6 world going on in state capitals for subsequent weeks. This is a thing that could be a multi-day, not just a single day threat, but a multi-location, multi-week, multi-month, who knows, rolling threat that we have to deal with in the context of a very heated political moment that you've been referring to. And I think that also multiplies the concern, because it's not even just we just need to focus on one day in one city here. We have to focus on a lot of places and a lot of days.
I'm glad you mentioned this, because I want to point something out that's not getting enough coverage. Having now been in media, so to speak, as a talking head for almost approaching 4 years, I guess, right. I've really seen the dilemma on what to cover, how much to cover, whether you're giving voice to people who don't need any coverage. But here's the thing that I think I know it's not getting covered. On any given weekend, John, right now, for the past few months, there are Proud Boys assemblies in cities near you, namely Pacific Northwest, but everywhere, where shots are fired. There are clashes with counter protesters. This is now a weekend outing every weekend, and it's happening. It's already happened this weekend. And yes, the Olympia, Washington is going to happen sometime in September, and it has been happening. Right. A Proud Boy leader or longtime member named Tiny Toez was shot last weekend or weekend before. Nobody's realizing, except for folks who live in these poor places where they can't go downtown on a weekend, that it's already happening. So yes, you're right. And DHS has been warning state, county, local police departments, get your act together, because this is going to continue to happen and perhaps really explode on or about the 18th or thereafter.
Thank you for watching. You can watch the full episode of Hell and High Water on the Recount, streaming daily, or listen to it wherever you get your podcasts.